Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 380 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels coming to you from Sandusky, Ohio, and thanks for checking out this episode. In this episode, I am going to be going through my tips for round one of the 2025 fixture. Now, normally, right over here, or maybe over here, depending on how I have the screen set up, you'd see my mate Mick Aussie on the screen, and he would be helping me out with my tips. And, well, Mick is off having a great time at home visiting family back in South Australia and has been keeping in touch through Twitter. And if you check my Twitter feed here in a little while, there are several posts where he has visited the new Barossa grounds where there's going to be a couple games in the gather round. They're going to be played there. I think Richmond's playing there, if I'm not mistaken. But so Mick is not with me today, so you're going to get just my tips. I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure when Mick is going to be back in Canada, but hopefully we'll be able to schedule times to sit down and chat again because I absolutely love having Mick on, and we'll see if we can go ahead and continue our discussion of some of those colloquialisms and Aussie slang that he's now remembering since he's back home and getting to experience them again. So, folks, don't forget you can find everything about the podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I do hope you'll sign up on the mailing list. I hope you'll get subscribed there over on that site as well. Also, right now, there is a new survey that I have out where I'm just trying to get the pulse of those of you who are listeners in terms of what you like, what you don't like, what could I do better. If you are somebody who is on my mailing list, I mailed that out to you about 10 days or so ago. I've had about a half dozen people who filled it out. Those of you who have, I thank you for that. I appreciate your input. If you haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, I do hope you'll go ahead and do that. And before we dive into the tips for this week, and this is going to be a slightly shorter episode than we would normally have with Mick, not quite as much discussion back and forth. There were a couple of things that I needed to make sure that I addressed. And first off, I want to give a big shout out to Jack, to Joe, and to Fiona from the Word Count podcast, and also from Jack's Tales from Three Corners. These ladies have been a lifesaver for me. Okay. Jack recently signed me up as one of the founding members of the Tasmania Devils. Very kind of her. You know, she just a very generous person by doing that, and I truly appreciate it. But I had a package show up a couple of days ago, and I've not reached out to them to thank them yet, directly. But I'm kind of doing it through this, and I will send them the link to this as well. But if you've not checked out their show, and let me tell you about the package first, okay? So first of all, there were a few stickers and the membership stuff from the Tasmanian Devils. I'm very excited about that. But there was also one of Joe Dixon's more recent books, The House of Now and Then, which is sitting on my night table right next to my bed, which I have begun, and I'm enjoying it so far. And a couple of other things that I'm very much looking forward to. Some pepperberry sea salt, which looks like it is a staple of the Tasmanian diet. I like things that are spicy like that. And also something that I have never heard of before. I didn't know it existed, but it makes sense. This is not like the first time that I tried Vegemite, like the 24 or 25 empty jars that are up there behind my left hand. But Jack sent along also a jar of beetroot marmalade. I'm a big toast guy. I like toast. So I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to wait till I get myself a really, really nice loaf of bread and toast that. And I'm looking forward to trying it. My wife is actually looking forward to trying it as well. She said she thinks it's going to be pretty sweet. So we're going to definitely show that. But again, back to their shows for a minute. If you are a writer or a podcaster like myself, that's kind of what led me to gravitate towards it. Plus, I had listened to Jack's other show, Tales from Three Corners, from the inception. They're all about wanting to hold themselves accountable for their writing goals and things of that nature, which I think is terrific because I tend to procrastinate quite a bit. That's an old TV commercial here. And I actually think it's from a movie. Isn't that from Up, I think? Yeah, it's from the dog from Up. I've never seen Up, but I guess that was where the reference was from. But for those of you who are on audio only, I did kind of look off to the side there when I uttered the word squirrel there. But like I said, they hold themselves accountable, and it was really helpful for me, especially in these last several months with everything that's been going on at my home, um, to help get me re-accountable because I'd kind of lost my way. I was a little rudderless, and even though they didn't realize it, and I did send them a note not too long ago, thanking them for this. They were integral in helping me to kind of refocus and repurpose. And I've kind of found this new vigor, and I'm really excited. And it's I'm trying to take 1,000 steps at the same time, and I'm not having a lot of success with that as of yet. But hopefully that'll be coming soon, and I'll start to figure out a couple of those steps. But also Jack's other show, Tales from Three Corners, um, it's kind of quirky, but it's about a little small town of about 2,000 ish people, and each episode, and I wish there were more, and I relish them when I do see the new ones out. I guess maybe I should say I marmalade them, but they just tell these neat little stories about these members of this community, and it's a fun little podcast, and quite frankly, I think it's one that almost every single episode, if you happen to have your younger child or grandchild or something like that with you, these would be suitable for them to listen to as well. There may be a couple that were a little edgier than others, but for the most part, they're very down to home. And she's won countless awards with this show. So I wanted to thank the three of them for their generosity and just for helping to get me back on the straight and narrow. And I can't thank them enough for that. Which leads me into the next aspect. And a couple of weeks ago, there was an organization, and I put the link for this other one that we're going to talk about here in a moment in the show notes. They had named A Yank on the Footy as the number 17 sport podcast in Australia. And I thought, wow, that's phenomenal. And again, I wasn't sure the criteria. It's dealing with marketing. I think it's maybe trying to help people who are wanting to advertise and that sort of thing. And quite frankly, I'm all game if you are at all interested. I can't come knocking on doors in Australia. And let's be honest, I think I've burned the bridge of having Frank Walker advertise national title on my show with my really, really bad imitations of him. But today they posted their top 100 footy podcasts in Australia. And I moved up a little bit to number 12. Now, I have to be honest, I don't know the criteria that they used for this, but I'm beyond humbled. It's pretty damn cool to even be mentioned with so many of the great podcasts that are out there. And I've got the link for this in the show notes so you can see what other shows that are out there. And I believe there were a dozen of them that were on that list that are podcasts that I have had on. I've had people from that show on my podcast. They've previewed episodes or they've previewed their clubs at the beginning of the season, including many of them this season. And there's quite a few that I've not listened to all of them that are on the list, but there are so many that I do listen to that I wish they were on the list because they do a phenomenal job. And I tried to give them a shout out on Twitter because all of these people put so much time and effort into this thing that they love. And check out that list. And if you have not seen it as of yet, if you've not checked out mine, if you've not checked out one of these other ones, give it a look, give it a listen, because you might find some things over there that you go, wow, these folks do a really good job. Maybe not the club that I support, but I appreciate the effort and I appreciate the insight that they provide. Okay. So number 12 on that list. I wonder when they, if you're watching on video, I wonder when they're going to come out with the top 100 sport podcasts that are done by people who shave their head. I got to think I'd be close to the top on that one. So for those of you who are on audio only, yes, I do shave my head. I like to get rid of the gray hair on top of my head because I don't want to point to the gray ones on my head and tell my students, hey, see that one there? You gave me that one. Now, round zero, it's in the books. Well, it's on one page of the book. It was pretty much that, or zero. Okay, you had a couple pretty decent games. We saw a couple good outings from the winning sides, but Alfred kept hanging around Queensland, kind of the way that he used to hang around stately Wayne Matter, pissing off Adam West, who was looking for a little bit of privacy, if you know what I mean. Um, if you don't know what I mean, that's a reference to the Batman TV series from the 1960s. Sorry about that. I'm just showing my age. Now, as I mentioned, Mick Ossie is back home in South Australia visiting family. He did a series of clips touring the new facilities at the Barossa Park, which is about 70 kilometers northeast of Adelaide. And I'm so thrilled for Mick because he's going to get to be at home this weekend to see his Crows take on St. Kilda. And I did not get his tip on that game, but I'm going to go ahead and make Mick's tip for him. Mick, you're tipping your Crows to win by 18 points. There you go. You've tipped your Crows to win by 18 points. So, Mick, I made your tip there for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the games for this week, folks, okay? Now, first game this weekend is tonight or tomorrow morning, my time. And we've got Richmond and Carlton facing off at the MCG for the curtain raiser, if you will, in Melbourne. And Richmond supporters, patience. Patience, patience, patience. This is game one of a journey that I think is going to be a little quicker than you realize, but it's still going to be a little longer than you want it to be. Okay? You're going to take your lumps, but you're going to have to look for those moments where you go, yep, that glass is half full, that glass is half full, that glass is half full. Carlton's got a lot of injuries. I think it's going to be a more competitive game than we realize because you still got some decent veterans playing for Richmond. But I'm still going to go with the Carlton Blues to win this one by about 4 goals. Okay, it may be more than that, but I like to be a little bit more conservative when it comes to doing that sort of thing. I'm not going to come on here and say, yes, Team X is going to beat Team Y by 100 points. You're not going to see me do that. Okay. And then we get to one of the more impressive clubs in round one, Hawthorn facing off against Essendon. Now they're on a short turnaround. Okay, a short week for them because they played just last past weekend and nobody else really did. This is going to be a very competitive game, but I'm going to tell you what. Does Hawthorn have any weaknesses? I'm wondering. And I saw a discussion, and David King was in the discussion, and I don't know why. I'm thinking it was Kane Corns, but I'm not positive on this. But it was somebody that asked whether or not Darcy Moore would even get a game with Hawthorn right now, Collingwood's captain. And David King was a little incredulous, I think, asking, really, their captain? And it was a really interesting question to ponder. And, I think Hawthorn is, I know a lot of people are thinking they're ready to fall back a little bit, but I don't think it's happening this week. I think Essendon's going to be a much improved side this year. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Just like I think Richmond's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but I think Essendon's much further along than Richmond is, of course. But I'm going with Hawthorn to win this one by about 14 points, okay? And then we head down to GMBHA Stadium on what looks like is going to be a rather toasty afternoon in Geelong. And this is going to kind of be a war of attrition. I have a feeling that that if you were planning on going to any of the local grocery stores in Geelong and planning on stocking up on pickle juice, you should have done it already because there's not going to be a single little bottle of it left on the shelves. There's going to be more pickle juice consumed in Geelong this weekend than I think has ever been consumed in Geelong. So the temperature's supposed to be up around 33, 34 degrees, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday. It's going to be hot. It's going to definitely be a war of attrition. This, folks, if you haven't listened to my preview episode for the 2025 season with my ladder predictions and such, this is my grand final right here, Geelong and Fremantle. And I'm going to go with Geelong to win this one by 10 at home, although it would not shock me at all if Fremantle won this one because they always seem to have the Cats' number in Geelong. I just think there's a couple of enough injuries on the Fremantle side that's going to allow the Cats to go ahead and get 4 points, okay? And then we head to the Sydney cricket ground for Brisbane, heading up to face off against the Swans. And the Swans had a bit of an ugly game this past week. Um, and it's I don't think they're going to play as poorly this week as they did last week, but I do think that it's going to be a tough game for them. They're getting their second um, you know, chance at getting on the board and getting 4 points this week. Now, I think that the defending premiers, are going to actually take this one on the road. I'm going with Brisbane to win this one by 11. Really, really horrible news about Lincoln McCarthy re-injuring his ACL in his right knee, the one that he injured last year. I mean, just a fun player to watch. Even from when I started watching the game back in 2016 when he was with the Cats. I wish him all the best. I wish him good health as soon as possible. Leads me to believe we're probably not going to see him until at least I would imagine the middle of 2026 now. As he works towards getting healthy. But just Brisbane, I think they're a really good side, and if they can figure out how to utilize a couple of talls, I think it's a heavy lift for Eric Hipwood to be their number one guy up forward. But if they find somebody to supplement him, which I think they've been making some moves up there, Brisbane could very easily be there again in the last Saturday of the year. Okay. But I'm going to go with Brisbane to win this one, and it's a pretty big hole, 0-2 for the Swans. And Brisbane's going, hey, we did that last year, and look how it turned out for us. So, Sydney, don't give up hope as of this point in time if you start off 0-2. And if you did watch my preview for the ladder predictions, I did a separate ladder prediction. It was not the official one, and I kind of did it for fun. I used little blocks and such, and I encourage you to go back and watch it on YouTube if you didn't watch it, because it was a hell of a lot of fun doing this. I thought I would get a little more feedback on it, but that's okay if I didn't. But I did have somebody tell me that I did the math wrong on my actual ladder predictions, and I went back and looked at it. Yeah, I did. I'm not a math teacher. I teach government, and I teach a course on the Holocaust and also world history. Not a lot of math there necessarily. But we've got the Bulldogs and North Melbourne facing off at Marvel. Well, the Bulldogs are just decimated with injuries to start out this year. I wonder, whether or not they're going to stay out. And I hate to say this because I think the Bulldogs are a quality side. But are they going to dig themselves such a hole early on that they're going to find themselves trying to battle out of the bottom four on the year? Okay, still a lot of and it's not just injuries. It's a lot. It's absences from the club as well. And there's just been so much turmoil and tumult that's been going on there that I worry about what's going to happen. I think it's going to have to be Luke Beveridge's best coaching job ever if he's going to turn this ship around this year. And I have to put my money where my mouth is, because some of you, if you listen to my ladder predictions, yeah, I had North Melbourne finishing in the top 8. I think North Melbourne legitimately can be this year's Hawthorn. I really do. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't think it. And I may be flat out wrong, but I think that they have the potential with the youngsters that they have there now, with those veterans there, to actually find their way into the 8. There's enough injuries with the Bulldogs. Carlton is beat up a little bit, and I think I still had Carlton in the 8, but who knows? Okay, who knows? I wish Elijah Hollins all the best as well. And I forgot to mention that earlier, but I'm going with the Roos to win this one by 8. Okay, it's going to be a baby step, but it's going to be 4 points. It's going to point them in the right direction, and quite frankly, North Melbourne, go out and win this game in memory of Barry Cheatley. And I'm really going to be disappointed. I really am, if the club's not wearing double armbands this week. And I don't know if and I'll be honest, I don't know if they did it during their practice match or not. But if they didn't, I hope they're wearing double armbands for Dr. Ayet's wife and for Barry Cheatley. Two people who richly deserve that recognition. So, Roos, go out and get that win. Make me not look like an idiot. I'm usually good enough at doing that on my own. Okay. And then we head back to the MCG for Collingwood, limping home literally to face off against Port Adelaide. And this could certainly be a preview of a game that's going to be happening in the finals this year. But I didn't have Collingwood playing finals this year. I worry about them having enough scoring. I still worry about that. They looked rough last week against GWS. Port's going to be missing Zach Butters. The Pies are going to get Dan Houston back to run out there for the first time. Now, during the daytime in Melbourne, it's supposed to be about 34 degrees on Saturday. I'm thinking with a 7:30 start, maybe it's going to cool down to a nice, cool 28 degrees. So it's still going to be pretty toasty on Saturday night. And I worry a little bit about Nick Dacos's fitness. Did Port Adelaide watch that film and think, we can just run the hell out of this young man? We can try to wear him out. And we can just keep running people at him, chasing him all over, making him chase. And that might work out for us in the long run. And maybe if he has to just go up and sit up forward to rest and deal with cramps and that sort of thing. And again, I hope he plays it up. I hope he's healthy. I hope he doesn't have a single little tinge or twingle or whatever you might have. Twingle. I think I just made that word up. But I'm going with Port Adelaide to win this one. I think they're again, two sides that are going to struggle to find the sticks, I think, in the great grand scheme of things. Okay. Port's got a lot of scoring that they're going to need to replace. And Collingwood doesn't necessarily have a lot of scoring, in the forward structure. They got a couple, smaller players, Bobby Hill and such that can get the job done, Jamie Elliott, but I'm not a gambling person, but this might be a game that I would bet the under on if I was to do so. I just think this might be a bit of a low scoring game, quite frankly. And then we head to the Mick Aussie special and Adelaide hosting St. Kilda. And these two clubs both have high hopes for the year. The Saints, unfortunately, have got a pretty significant injury list to start out the year. Sounds like Rowan Marshall is going to be back for this game. So the Riley O'Brien, Rowan Marshall matchup ought to be fun to watch. The Crows, I'll tell you what, you look at that list and, you try to figure out, how did they not play up to their potential? I mean, yes, they had injuries and such, but this is a club that you could make an argument is as talented as just about any other club in the comp. Okay. And I think that Adelaide's going to take this one by about 3 goals. I really do. I just think they're playing at home. I think Adelaide would still win it on the road, but I think it'll be a closer game. But I'm going to go with the Crows to win this one by 18 points. I just think that this is a pretty decent side, and I'm really interested to see what happens with this one. Okay, so this is what I'm really looking forward to. And then we've got the D's hosting GWS. The D's had a very dysfunctional end to 2024. The offseason was not much different. Have they turned things around? The Giants, they're going to be without Kieran Briggs. But I think that they're going to take this one by a couple of goals, even though they're on the road. So, at the MCG, I'm going to go with GWS to start out the year 2-0, knocking off the D's. I think the D's on paper could be a final side. I just don't know if they're going to put it all together. Maybe they will, but I'm not necessarily totally convinced of that as of this point in time. And then we get to the last game of the round, and I think this is a game that yes, it's a Sunday game. It's on the West Coast. There's a lot of people who are thinking, okay, yeah, I guess they do have to play one more game, and it's West Coast and Gold Coast. I guess you could say West Coast, East Coast. The Suns have got huge aspirations to play finals this year. Okay. When I've done my previews and when I've had discussions, I've argued that, that Gold Coast, that the AFL almost needs Gold Coast to play finals to legitimize the expenses that they have incurred in keeping that team functional throughout the first decade or so of their existence. Okay. Do they have the talent to play finals this year? Yeah, they do. Are they going to? I think they're going to get close, but I think they may still come up a little bit short. It's going to be a long flight. The weather at home this week getting ready was not great. But if they want to play finals, this is a game that they absolutely must win. And I think it's going to be one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. You've got a couple of young sides hungry for, showing that Gold Coast showing that, yes, we are a finals contender. West Coast saying we're ready to jump out of that bottom two or that bottom four and start pushing our way up the ladder. Okay. But I'm going to go with Gold Coast to win this one by 11. I just think that they're a better side right now. Now, if this game was being played in Perth in round 15, and if Gold Coast had stumbled a few times and West Coast had gotten, another dozen or so games into some of their youngsters, I might tip this one the other way. But as of right now, I'm going to go with Gold Coast to win this one. Okay. Now, so there's my tips. You'll have to let me know what you think. Okay. I'm really excited about some prospective guests that I'm going to be having on the podcast. I need to sit down and line up some times with them. I know we've had our time change here in the United States, so now we're 15 hours behind Melbourne. But I think actually that Australia is going to be changing their times again pretty soon. So I think we actually jump again. I think maybe we slide to 14 if I'm not mistaken for a while. Again, math. But before I go, I do want to wish my wife all of the best. She had her next round of chemotherapy today, and she's been an absolute trooper. Her prognosis is really good, and I'm so damn proud of everything that she's doing. Stay strong. I love you. She's not going to hear this because she doesn't listen to my podcast, but maybe somebody that knows her will let her know about that. But remember, I can't even get her to watch footy. So she's probably not going to listen to a podcast about footy, even if it's the number 12 footy podcast in Australia. Had to plug that one more time. So, folks, remember, again, you can find everything about the podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. Okay. I do hope you'll get on that mailing list. If you enjoy the show, I hope you'll share it with people as well. And if you could take a minute and leave a review for the podcast, you can leave a review right on my website if you'd like to do that. That would be awesome. And also, if you're somebody who's on my mailing list, you did get that survey. It would take you just a couple of minutes. If you have a couple of minutes of time to fill it out as you're listening to an episode, that'd be awesome. Give me a follow on my socials. Those are all linked there as well. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, look out for your friends. Okay, reach out to somebody if you need to do so. Check up on your friends, make sure they're okay. And I've been saying this for years on the podcast, and just this past weekend, I had someone reach out to me. I'm not going to say who it was. That does not matter. But they were in a really difficult spot, and I am no expert on all things trying to deal with issues like this that were causing them grief and internal, not physical pain, but emotional pain, that sort of thing. But I'm glad that I was able to be there for this person. I did not. I think I gave them as good advice as I possibly could. I'm not sure how helpful I was. I have spoken to this person again since then. I've checked up on them a couple of times, but I certainly did try my very best to make sure they were in a good place. But again, if you need to talk to somebody, don't hesitate to reach out to someone. Okay, call that friend. Okay, I did see something online that referenced that somebody was saying that they were having a difficult time with someone and that they had, that they needed to talk to someone. And they said, well, why didn't you reach out? And they said, well, I did reach out. I sent you a text message. And they said something to the effect that the text message was the same as it always was. Like, hey, how you doing? You want to hang out? That kind of thing. That was their call for help. But it was the same message as they would always get from that person. And the person was busy for some reason, did not respond. So they made a pact with one another. And they said, I think is what they had said, and I'll see if I can find the link. I think it was a short on Instagram. But they've decided that if they ever need to talk and it's something like that, that they would post something or send a message to the other person. Hey, do you have 8 minutes? And I think they were saying that there was research that showed that just being able to let that person know that you care, that you're trying to show them compassion, that you're trying to help them resolve their situation, that you, quite frankly, that you give a shit about them, okay, is important. Okay, so if you need to talk to somebody, please don't hesitate to reach out. If it's become serious and you can't reach anyone here in the United States and in Australia, I have those numbers in the show notes of every episode. Find my podcast, find the show notes. Those numbers are at the bottom of every set of show notes. Please call someone, because the world is a heck of a lot better place with you in it. Okay? Look out for those friends. Okay? Get out and have that snag. Go have that coffee. All right? Go have a beer if that's your thing. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for and show my appreciation for all of the kind words that you continually share about the podcast. And again, share with your friends and family. Get on that mailing list if you haven't done so yet. And as always, may your dribble kick never hit the post. And I'll catch you later. And this has been episode 380. Remember, you can find me at ayankonthefooty.com. I hope you give me a follow over on X at yank_on. I'm on LinkedIn. I've been adding contacts on LinkedIn, and I'm going to start looking for trying to line up some interviews with people there as well. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, also ayankonthefooty@gmail.com if you want to shoot me an email. If you have an idea for somebody who'd be a great guest, maybe it's you. I think I'm going to also start reconstituting some of those discussions on your most memorable game. So if you have a memorable game, one that you're never going to forget, it's that game of footy, whether it be at your local level when you were playing, 12U, under 12 years old. You were in Colts, or you in the B reserves, or whatever the case may be, and you want to tell that story and share that story with people, I'd love to hear from you. So shoot me an email at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com, or send me a note over on my website, ayankonthefooty.com. And until next time, everybody, cheers and goodbye. Talk to you soon.